But you're a
Whether he was surprised by the slap, I don't know. Whether Lawler really was mad at him, I don't know. But Andy knew he was getting entertainment value out of whatever the hell was happening on that stage and knew to go with it.
On November 13th, 1982, 7 years after giving Andy his big break on Saturday Night Live, the show's producer went on the air to denounce him.
And in my opinion, Andy Kaufman is not funny anymore. And I believe you, the audience here, agree with me.
What the TV audience didn't know was that Andy and Dick Ebersol had cooked up this little scheme together. But things didn't turn out quite as Andy planned.
He and Dick Ebersol had apparently agreed upon this from the beginning, that Dick Ebersol was going to come out, make a statement about Andy not being funny anymore, and then they were going to have a vote about whether Andy Kaufman should be allowed back on Saturday Night Live or not.
So we had a pretty good feeling that he would be banned based on, the negative reaction to his wrestling. But the agreement between Ebersol and Andy was that he would come back.
But for reasons Andy never understood, the show's producer refused to have him back on the program.
Andy never came back from that fully, in my opinion. It really, really hurt.
I mean, everyone thought he was basically threatening his career, flushing himself down the toilet and the whole thing. And in some strange way, I don't think he knew he was going to pass away, but the fact is he basically conducted his life as if he could go any minute.
And he almost could not believe that people didn't know he was joking, that they didn't know that it was all part of his performance.
It just went too overboard or something.
He was bored with success. He wanted to be the bad, because he thought he was losing his edge, the radicalism of the guy really pushing the envelope. Like, who would do this? Who would have a nice, stable, lovable career in Taxi and totally try to dynamite it?
You might say a lot of the things he did in the last couple of years didn't make sense from a career standpoint of, say, some generic Saturday Night Live star who was going to go on and make, kind of mediocre hit movies for the next 20 years. He did a lot of things that may actually stay in the history books and have some kind of lasting value, on the assumption that you could go any minute, which is what ended up happening.
After all the confusion he had generated, no one, including some of Andy's closest associates, knew what to believe or disbelieve about his antics. Many were convinced they were watching the unraveling of a remarkable career. But Andy couldn't have cared less. He gleefully carried on, leaving a trail of bewilderment in his wake. And then, after a very successful 5-year run, it was announced that ABC was canceling Taxi.
His big fear is that he would only be remembered from Taxi. That was his big fear. And we know what he thought about the American sitcom and his work on Taxi as really low rent compared to his real art form.
Granted, it made him a big star. It made him a household name, which enabled him to do all the stuff, a lot of the stuff that he did. So I think he might have had a slight tinge of regret because of that. But he certainly didn't miss it.
After Taxi's cancellation, Andy was offered a role in a Broadway play, co-starring Deborah Harry of the rock group Blondie.
We did a play together called Teen-Neck Tansy, and it was about the coming of age of a young girl and how she gets tossed about. And the wrestling became very symbolic of being tossed around in life. And Andy played the referee. Opening night, when they invited the critics, was just a nightmare. It was a good show and everything. Everything went well, but they hated it. They hated it.
The play closed after opening night. And finally, the most bitter blow was struck.
Taxi had been canceled. The play he was in had been canceled after one night. He couldn't get booked on any shows except David Letterman. The film he was in, Heartbeeps, was a big flop. Everything seemed to be going wrong. And then the Transcendental Meditation movement disappointed him.
Andy was refused admittance to a Transcendental Meditation conference on the grounds that they found his wrestling too offensive. Andy, who had meditated faithfully every day since the age of 19, was shattered.
I think that was a terrible blow. Yeah, because it really was his lifeline.
I mean, he needed to be famous and successful. He absolutely needed that. But what was keeping him alive, to do that was meditation.
Nobody was a more devoted meditator than he was. And, I mean, how dare they do that to him?
This very, very supposedly loving organization hurt Andy very badly because they turned him back down at a time that he needed them desperately when things were not going too well for him.
It was comparable to a devout Roman Catholic being excommunicated from the Catholic Church. And it killed him. It killed him.
At the end of 1983, Andy and Lynn were living in San Francisco. He was at a turning point in his career. He was tired of his old routines and was working on fresh material. In December, just before Christmas, Andy went to see his doctor to check on a persistent cough that had been troubling him for some time. The outcome of this routine examination proved to be devastating.
And I went to Cedars with him, Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, and we met with the doctors, and they told him he had lung cancer.
So they did some further diagnosis. And I remember then sitting down with the doctor and them saying, there's not that, we really can't do anything except possibly slow it down, you're going to die.
And looking over this completely healthy, vigorous individual who was the happiest guy that I have ever seen, that was a shock. It was a shock. I mean, I remember, Andy used to have a house full of health food, and, he had no bad habits.
He was so brave. Never complained. I totally just did whatever he had to do to fight it.
He went to alternative medical people and not, he didn't opt for the cancer life. He sort of kept trying to find a way out of it till the very end.
A friend of his called and told him about this miracle thing they do in the Philippines called psychic surgery. Neither of us had ever heard of it before.
Andy placed his hopes of recovery on a faith healer who could seemingly reach into the body and remove disease. He, Lynn, and later Bob Zmuda flew to Baguio City in the Philippines in search of a cure.
So we were there for 6 weeks. And at first Andy did start getting better because I think he really did believe in this. He didn't question this.
And the body opens up, it's bloody as all heck, and the tumors are pulled out. Well, I'm an ex-magician, and I, of course, catch on that he's palming things. This ain't real. And I talk to Lynn about this because I'm going, should we tell him? But yet this is Andy's last hope. This is it.
For the first few weeks, Andy felt very positive that the procedure was working. But by the 5th week, the cancer had taken hold and he suffered a relapse. Andy decided that the treatments were not helping, and he, Lynn, and Bob flew back to Los Angeles. Back home, the news of Andy's impending death, which had hit the tabloids, was met with complete skepticism.
At what point are people going to say, I don't buy it anymore? Well, they did get to that point. And finally, when Andy came off and said, I'm dying of cancer.
The thing I thought was totally amazing was that the day it finally happened, I'd say at least 70-80% of the country totally didn't believe it.
And my husband came in and said, Andy is sick. It's in the papers. And I said, no, he's not. He's not sick. He's just, you watch, he's going to play this out and he'll find a healer and he'll be miraculously healed on NBC. And then he died. And I couldn't believe it. I still don't believe it. I thought he was just doing an Andy.
First I was afraid, I was petrified. Kept thinking I could never live without you by my side. And then I spent so many nights thinking how you did me wrong. And I grew strong, and I learned to get along, and now I'm back.
1 year later, on the anniversary of Andy's death, These rumors were given new life by an appearance by Tony Clifton. The room was packed that night, with the audience fully expecting Andy Kaufman to reappear.
Walk out the door, don't turn around now, because you're not welcome anymore.
He was always saying he wanted to take a long vacation and then reappear, come back to life. Some people say he's really dead, and probably he is, but I wouldn't put it past Andy to show up one day.
I got all my life to give, I will survive, I will survive, I will survive.